Alright, so really quickly, here are my note cards. And just to make sure that there's nothing behind them. Okay, so how many of you have ever wondered what the Earth will look like in 50 years? How many of you knew that we are the closest to extinction than we've ever been before? Today, I will be discussing climate change and the effects it has on various aspects of our lives. Now, you may think this does not involve you because these changes occur in ecosystems far away, but they affect us closer to home than you may think, affecting from the food we eat to the weather we experience. Now, as a STEM student, I have ensured that the information I have prepared is accurate and up to date. And the three main points I will be discussing are the environmental, economic, and health impacts of climate change. Now, first, let's discuss the environmental impacts of climate change because when people think of climate change, the environment comes to mind because these are the changes that are most apparent. Now, to quote Sani et al. From the journal Environmental Impacts and Econ Benefits for Sustainable Development, greenhouse gas emissions accelerate climate change while degrading soil, air, and water quality. This is important because greenhouse gases are an important part of climate change. They contribute to an increase in temperature and to worsening weather events in severity and frequency. And we have experienced this even here in Houston with worsening hurricanes and worsening floods, and in other regions of the United States, such as California, who had to deal with wildfires this past summer. Now, this can lead to disrupted ecosystems. Increased severe weather, temperature, and precipitation can disrupt biodiversity and sustainability of crucial environments and ecosystems across the world. Things like ocean acidification make it harder for things like coral reefs to survive. Now, let's move on to the economic impacts. Like I mentioned, extreme weather is a direct consequence of climate change. Now, this does not have just an environmental impact, but an economic one as well, because it takes an immense cost to recover and bounce back from these severe weather issues, and it takes a lot of money to rebuild infrastructure and homes, and especially in coastal areas where they experience a lot of these weather issues. Um, Agricultural and food insecurity is also a big issue because changes in rainfall make it unpredictable for farmers to predict their crop yield, which is important because they depend on this for their livelihood. And so some regions may experience too much rainfall, so they have to deal with more pests. And some places may deal with too little rainfall, or they have to deal with droughts. And you might think this doesn't affect us because we're not farmers, but it goes up the chain. So less crops means that food will be more expensive, and which affects almost all of us. Now, to quote Bollinger and Frick from the Berkeley Lawrence National Laboratory, climate related disruptions to the energy system can have significant implications for electricity, cost, and reliability. Which brings me to my next point. Climate change can drastically affect our energy sector, which makes it more costly and harder for us to ensure the reliability of our energy grid and systems, which um, which does not only affect consumers but affects different types of industries as well, like we mentioned the food industry and now the energy industry. Climate change affects all these important and vital economic sectors. Lastly, let's discuss the health impacts. Illness and disease is a major part of climate change because susceptible populations such as the elderly and children are become more susceptible to different kinds of diseases like cardiovascular disease. To quote Buonacore et al., Air pollution from um, fossil fuel combustion contributes significantly to respiratory and cardiovascular diseases. This is important because they developed a 10 region model of the United States where they examined the different health impacts across the states and where they occur the most and the most severe. And they have found that many suffer from cardiovascular and respiratory diseases because of increased climate change issues. And some parts suffer from disease carrying mosquitoes because these mosquitoes have expanded to a larger area, habitat area, because these rising temperatures have made them be able to expand to regions they couldn't be able to survive in before. Now, for social impacts, like I mentioned before, many communities suffer from severe weather events, so they have to be displaced, which overall lowers the quality of life for many people because they constantly have to be worrying about how they're going to survive and where they're going to go, and if they're going to get any housing, healthcare, or aid. So, to wrap up, um, climate change has an immense impact and effect on various aspects of our lives, including the environmental and economic and health aspects of everyone's lives. Now, I hope that this speech has enabled you or to be more informed about the issue of climate change and its consequences. Thank you for listening.